join करे. Bismillah.
Chalo, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, I'll be introducing one at a time, so I will make them join as I introduce them. So the main purpose of this discussion is to look at the challenges of the COVID-19 and to maintain the virus onslaught. And the discussion will be based from a religious, social, and scientific perspective. So first, I'd like to introduce our local scientist, Dr. AbdulRahman. Some of you know him as Arif. He's a trained biochemist and a structural biochemist. And he has interest in cell signaling and host pathogen interactions. Now, they can explain more of all the technical terms, but you all know him. And next, inshallah, I'd like to introduce Dr. Asfarul Haque. He is based in Oxford. He's a trained molecular and structural biologist, and he has years of experience in working with electron microscopy, which recently also helped in the imaging of several viruses. And we have the third scientist on our panel is Dr. Shah Kamran, who's based in London and is a virologist. He's working towards STEM technology transfer and knowledge sharing to the developing world. So alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair to all the panelists for joining us today. Inshallah, we hope we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this session very beneficial. And I'd like to add one disclaimer before I pass on to Mawlana Abdul Rauf, that the session is not meant to issue any guidelines by the masjid. Rather, we are entirely following the UK government guidelines. So the session is just an attempt to remind people about those guidelines and raise more awareness about COVID-19. So inshallah, I'll pass on to Mawlana Abdul Rauf to introduce the topic from a spiritual perspective. If any questions you have, please you can put the questions in the comment section, and inshallah our panelists will try their best to answer the question, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for the brothers, mashallah, Dr. Asfarul Haque, Dr. Kamran, Dr. AbdulRahman. Thank you for joining us. May Allah bless you, and may Allah accept your efforts, what you are doing for the humanity. Maybe if I say that in this panel at the moment, me and Mona Hamza are the people of Deen, and you three are the people of Dunya, that's how the people see in the world at the moment. You are the people of Dunya, we are the people of Deen. But that's not true. We all are the people of Deen. We and all are making contributions to the world, to the humanity, and to the Deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we all are on the same platform. We are all on the same platform. But unfortunately, the mindset has become such that these people who are engrossed in the scientific research, these people are the people of Dunya. No, you are the people of Deen. And we are also following you, and we are your students. And alhamdulillah, Dr. AbdulRahman, he has been teaching us for a very long time. And but today I have requested Dr. AbdulRahman to keep it the layman language, because when they are so engrossed in their scientific research, so they express the words out of as a routine, but sometimes it goes over our head. So Jazakallah for joining us, our friends. And today there is the two perspectives. One is the perfect, the one point of protection, protecting ourselves from and relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is very important point. And one is because this dunya is the means made of and we need to acquire the asbab to protect ourselves, to look after ourselves, to care ourselves. So in those asbab, there are two means. One is a spiritual means, one is a physical means. And today, in this world, at this moment in time, we have neglected both means in many terms. In the spiritual means, we have forgotten the du'as what Prophet ﷺ has taught us. The dua in the morning, the dua before food, the dua entering in the masjid, dua leaving the house, leaving the car. As it says, who's those people who say Bismillah tawakkaltu ala Allah la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. When you leave the house, Allah says the angels makes announcement. This person has been protected and been guided, have been provided the risk. So we have become more reliance on the materialistic world, so engrossed that to the extent we forget the are the real definite source of protection. And another means are the du'as, amal, the fasting, giving sadaqah, charity is a mean of protection. The Prophet ﷺ said, give charity, Allah will protect you from waba, from bala, from any calamities. But today we have that idea had became a bit vague. Subhanallah, this outbreak came and this affliction came, and then this affliction has made us from those who refocus and join our thoughts and mind and our heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, we start reading the du'as. We are connecting ourselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are refocusing ourselves, and we are understanding He is the supreme power. But until now, we had a kind of a vague mindset saying that, okay, we are in the safe world and advanced country, we have all the measures of protections and help. Subhanallah, even though we have everything, Allah had made us such that we don't have anything. Our wealth is not helping much. Nothing. Everything has its limit and restrictions. Subhanallah. So we are now, and He made us realize by something which we can't see. So inshallah, these scientists are going to explore on those topics. So the one perspective is that we need to connect ourselves with the definite means of protection, of health and provider, the one who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second means the asbab. And asbab, there are many things comes. In zahiri asbab, the one physical asbab which we can see, in many things comes in it. And as we are discussing on this topic, we will be exploring this idea along with discussions. So let's pass the virtual mic to Maulana Hamza to start the discussion. Step by step, we are going to cover the topics.
So, inshallah, we'll begin the program by requesting the panelists to give a brief account on the seriousness, also some fundamental questions we will ask them. So, we will also request the panelists to put any questions forward. But remember, we won't answer any questions regarding any government policy, rather just about the disease itself and as a community, what we can do in our personal and our professional lives. And if there's any more questions left or a lot more discussion still required by the viewers, inshallah, then we can have another session as well. So I'd like to request maybe one of the panelists to begin introducing the virus and the disease, inshallah. Dr. Kamran.
So, yeah. So starting with the very basic thing, what this virus is. Virus, we can understand it's the smallest replicating entity, and it's a parasite. It's nothing on its own. It is a parasite. When it goes to host, it amplifies and everything. So obviously, it is so small that we cannot see. When a virus is on the surface,
Dr. Rahman, sorry to interrupt you. We are not able to hear completely. Can you just repeat what you said and a bit louder as well?
Yes. So now is it clear now, my voice?
A bit better than before. If it can be done better.
Yeah. Is it better now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So the virus is the smallest replicating entity, and it's a parasite. Obviously, it's small, so small that we cannot see. When a virus is on the surfaces, it cannot multiply or replicate. Only when it enters any animal, it starts replicating, multiplies in millions. It is made of small biological components or materials. Technically, we call biomolecules. And these are same molecules of which we are made. So it's a protein, it's a nucleic acid, and it's a lipid. So what happens, like in the core of the virus, there is a genetic material, and that's wrapped around by the layers of proteins to protect the genetic material. And then outside of the virus, on the very outside, is the lipid. Again, viruses are everywhere, and let's say for each animal, plants, even bacteria, are host to their own set of viruses. These are friendly viruses. They grow, they come and go, that's fine. However, a very few viruses become pathogenic and it's called host. It is also observed that virus is friendly in one animal, but when they jump to a new animal or host, here say human, it becomes hugely pathogenic. So this is a brief introduction of the viruses. Now, how this COVID virus is affecting. So now maybe my next panelist, my friend Dr. Asfarul, can carry on from here.
Thank you, Kamran. Uh, am I audible properly?
Yeah.
That's great. So I'll tell you about COVID-19, the disease which is caused by coronavirus. So what happens that, say for example, I'm taking a human being who gets infected by coronavirus, and the infection comes from somebody else. So the virus first enters the nose and throat. Now, why it affects nose and throat in the beginning is that the lining of nose and throat has a receptor which is called ACE2. Now it binds over there and that then enters the cells of the nose and throat and then starts multiplying itself. So when the virus is outside of the body, it doesn't do anything. But when it's inside the human cells, it starts multiplying, as Kamran rightly said. And what happens that in the beginning, in say first week, you might develop a symptom or you might not develop a symptom. So what happens that the body comes to know that okay, it has been attacked by an alien, which is the virus over here, and then it develops an immune response towards it, that is to kill the virus. What happens that in the first week you might develop a symptom such as fever, headache, loss of smell, sense of smell, etc. And the immune response tries to kill the virus. It may be possible that in the first week it is not in a position to kill, the immune response is not in a position to kill the virus, and then the virus gradually goes down to the lungs where it becomes very serious now. So what happens that the lower layer of lungs has very thin layer, and again over there the receptor which I said that ACE2 is present. Now the virus attacks over there the thin layer of cells and then starts killing it. Now the immune response also starts developing to a larger extent because now the cells are getting killed. And over here, it starts developing mucus, fluid, pus, etc. Now, all these are pathology of pneumonia, and this pneumonia is different from bacterial pneumonia. In bacterial pneumonia, we have medicines, but over here, to kill the virus, we do not have any medicines so far. So what happens that it generates so much of fluid in the lungs that you are not able to inhale oxygen, which is necessary for the life, or exhale CO2, which is the byproduct of metabolism of the body. And then over here, the depletion of oxygen leads to various kinds of, symptoms which deteriorates your health. And then what happens that these ACE2, now when the oxygen level goes down, you are required to go to provide an external supply of oxygen, which comes through oxygen cylinders or through ventilators. Now this is one aspect of the lung infection. Now the ACE2 receptor is also present in the kidneys. Now, so the secondary infection, this could lead to damaging of kidney, and therefore you might have heard that there are so many people who are hospitalized are also required to go through dialysis because the kidney becomes very much damaged. As well as these ACE2 receptors are present in the lower gut lining, so that it also affects your gut. So these are the three things which gets infected: lungs, kidney, and gut. But it also causes damage to your, it could also cause damage to your brain as well as heart. And how does it do is that when it starts attacking the blood vessels, it leads to formation of blood clots. And these blood clots could, in the blood, it could get separated, and sometimes it goes and settles in the brain and causes a stroke. So you can have brain stroke as well. And in the heart, it could damage the heart muscles, and therefore you could have various, heart attack or something like, or cardiac arrest kind of a thing. But having said that, as you now are understanding that it is the immune response which is quite necessary to kill the virus in absence of any medicine. Now, when you get older, the immune response also weakens. And therefore, if you have any underlying disease like some kidney disease or diabetes or some heart conditions, then it becomes much more complicated. And that is why you might be seeing a lot of fatalities in the old age as compared with the younger people. But if you have underlying issues, health issues in these, for example, in heart, kidney, or gut or brain, it doesn't mean that you need to be old aged. It could affect even if you are a very young person. So we have to be very careful. And again, as I'm saying, that I'm not giving you a very poor picture of it and a very dangerous picture of it, but at the same time, I'm saying that all these disease conditions does not arise in most of the patients. Most of the patients might show a flu-like symptom, fever, headache, and all those things, and it might go away. But in those patients where there is an underlying health condition, this might get exaggerated to a condition where it becomes so complicated that you have to be hospitalized, or you have to be taken care of by professionals, health professionals, I would say. So yeah, this is something which I have to tell. And if you have any question in this regard, please write it in the live comments, and we'd be much more happy to answer. Another thing which I would like to add is that you might have heard that there are hydroxychloroquine medicines which are being used as paraffin. But it's my suggestion that it would be very good that do not take these medicines. Anyway, in UK, it is not, you are not in a position to get these medicines over the counter. However, if you have this medicine, do not take it by yourself unless and until your doctor advises, because the dose can make or break the case. So it is very important that you follow the doctor's advice very strictly. Thank you. And how to minimize the chances of infection in the absence of disease. Prevention is better than cure, and then there is no cure, so it is much better to have the precautions. And to minimize the chances of infection, I think AbdulRahman Arif would be in a position to explain it to us. Arif, over to you, please.
Thanks very much.
Dr. Rahman, you are known by two names. So some people call you Arif, some people call you Rahman.
I'm absolutely fine with either of that. I have absolutely no issues. Thanks very much for giving me the opportunity for this. So to start with, I would like to repeat again something, and thanks for Kamran and Asfarul because they made my life easier by giving introduction to viruses. But to start to explain the concept behind, because what I'm going to do is first I'll explain why we need to, how the soap acts, and how any soap, like which we use in toilet, like in our toiletries, and which we use to wash our hands, can work. There's no specific brand we should run for. Any soap which we can use to wash our hand, or we use to wash our hand, or which we use on daily basis can be used. One. Second, the sanitizers. So what I'm going to do is explain the chemistry behind and how to use it, and then I'll move on to PP, personal protective equipments, how misuse and use. Okay, to start with, I'll just try to give an overview, and I'll try to explain with analogy to make it easier for people to understand. So let's assume the viruses, which the Kamran and the Asfarul is already given. So assume in a sort of a football like. Just for assume to make it easy, and inside the core of the football is a genetic material. The genetic material is which determines whether it's going to be a human, it's going to be a lizard, it's going to be a buffalo, it is going to be a bird or something. So that is the code information. The code is inside there, which determines what is going to be the outcome. So that is the information inside. And outside, so this genetic material is covered by a shell or membrane, which has a biomaterial like protein and the lipids. The protein we can relate with the muscles. For example, the meat we eat is a protein. So lentils is the proteins. And the lipids we can correlate with the oil and the fat, like butter and the fat in a heart. So the viruses have the genetic material inside, and outside they're covered by the shell or membrane, of which consists of protein and the lipids. So first, how we pick up these viruses. So the protein and the lipids present on the surface of the viruses, they stick to our skin. How? Our skins, we don't realize, but our skin keep releasing the oil, which keeps our skin, otherwise it will go dry. So the lipids present on our skins and proteins, they end up sticking to the virus. So literally the virus, the lipids and the protein present on the surface of the viruses, they stick to the protein and the lipids on our surface and they stick. So now the question is, how soap acts? Very simple. So I give an analogy. If you have a plate which you have just taken, like eaten something which was greasy or buttery, for example, you had a butter or the greasy something which is plate, you take it to your kitchen, you try to wash under cold water stream, what happens? You end up, so you make hands greasy, you won't be able to wash it. So you need to bring up warm water with the soap or the detergent, you see it going away. It's very similar. This is actually the strength of virus, because it's using the protein and the lipids, as Asfarul and Kamran just said. They use this protein on the surfaces and the lipids to enter into the human through the ACE2 receptor, which Asfarul was talking about. The same strength of the virus becomes its weakness. And how? So what the soap is doing, soap has two components. One component repels water, and one component likes water. So anything to get dissolved, for example, we cannot dissolve a wood, we cannot dissolve a stone, we cannot dissolve iron into the water, because anything which has to dissolve has to interact with the water molecule. So for example, we can dissolve salt or sugar in water. So until unless it's not able to interact with water, it won't. That's why we cannot dissolve glass, we cannot dissolve iron, we cannot dissolve wood, because it cannot interact with water. So now coming back to the main part, so what's happened? The soap has two components. One component can interact with water, and one component repels water, moves away from the water. So the component which can interact with the water which repels water goes and interacts with the lipid or fat molecule present on the surface of the viruses, and they ruptures the membrane. And what happens? So the moment the membrane is ruptured, the virus gets damaged and it opens up and it becomes it neutralizes. It's no more able to. It has no more the capacity or tendency to infect and enter the human body. So what happens? So why we recommend the minimum 20-second washing in warm water? Because there's a physical phenomena called surface tension. I have to be very, I would say, precise and not to go into scientific jargon. The tendency of the liquid to shrink. So as we move from cold to warm water or hot water, the tendency of the liquid to shrink goes away. So hot water has better wetting tendency. For example, you take a cold water, warm water, and hot water. So cold water you will find it is tough to wet anything, even clothes or whatever. But it's the warm water, it can spread easily. That's why we recommend warm water or hot water. I would say the warm water is better, because hot water can damage your skins. So warm water, then you take the soap. So now the water repelling part of the soap interacts with the membrane of the viruses and they damage it. So when you start to rub your hands, so that friction also helps you to damage it. So now we go back to the analogy. If you have a grease on your plate or the butter on your plate, it's buttered. So if you don't rub, if you just put the detergent on the plate in a basin, and if you don't rub, what will happen? Only the top layer will go away. So you have to literally rub your plate to get rid of the grease. The same way, now we come back to the we have to take the soap in hand, warm water, rub properly every single corner, the same way we rub the plate to get rid of the grease. And that's why the minimum, I know the 20 seconds is quite a long period, but we have to just understand that we are washing our plate to get rid of the grease from every single part of the plate. And that's why minimum of 20 seconds with warm water and the soap. And any soap works. We have to get, there's absolutely nothing like that, this brand, that brand. Any soap which you're putting on daily basis works. Now, this is the chemistry and the physics behind how the soap acts. Now, coming back. So the question is how somebody knows the COVID-19 is already. So this is a very good question in a sense, because so far, the every day we are learning something. Nobody can say that these are the symptoms. But of course, for example, the COVID-19, the SARS coronavirus 2, has some symptoms which matches with the previously the SARS. So what we have, these are lower respiratory tract infection in the lungs. So you have, for example, you may have a consistent fever. You have a fever. You have breathing difficulties. If the symptoms, because what the problem with is the maximum 70%, 60 to 70% people don't show the symptoms. Some people going to show the mild symptoms, and some people like 5 to 6% going to show the severe. So I'm talking about the mild to severe. These people have fever. Some people show the cough, the dry cough. Some people have the problem, the issues with the breathing, and they really struggle with the breathing. Some people even get chills, the shivers. So nobody can say all symptoms together, but the major symptoms can be the fever, the headache, difficulty with the breathing, and the dry cough. And dry cough, if you already had a cough before, because you had like cough before, or you had like persistent cough something, and now your cough is getting worse by the day, and you're coughing a lot, then is also, I would say, there's nothing these are symptoms, but these are really, if somebody has these things, is really affecting, and the person is like worried, then they should consult by calling.
Dr. Kamran, when you mentioned that these viruses has the same ingredients which we are made of, that was something new which we have learned. We haven't learned that. But how did these same ingredients are working against us?
Yeah. So hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. So you're right. Actually, that's the advantage. Viruses is made of same biomolecules. So what it can does, but this set of biomolecules, the component the virus has, it has a kind of own control on it. But again, at the same time, since the components are same that we have in our body, so it makes it easy to manipulate. It makes it easy for virus to manipulate our host system. So it goes and then somehow it dodges our body and says that, oh, we are more like same, we are not foreigners. And the point where it dodges the human system, it enters. And that's why we say that our immunity fails. There is a barrier, immunity helps. But somehow this virus, you are right, you rightly pointed out, with the same biomaterials, it somehow dodges that, okay, I'm the same. So, and then what happens, there is a little bit more I can tell you, like there are gates in our body, in our cells, and they keep on opening and closing. And these opening and closing of any gate, like gate of masjid, this is to take the important nutrients into the cells, to important components. This is the time when these viruses, when the gate is open, these viruses make use of those gates and the receptors, and they enter into the body. So this is how it's all the dodging mechanism. It does, and then it goes inside. And even after going inside, if our body is like responding and our immune system is fine, it is get killed. But somehow, if it is not killed, then virus has a free hand and it goes on. What Asfarul explained, how the pathogenicity develops.
Exactly. And Dr. Asfarul, when you mentioned that in the week one, we will have the symptoms. which are not life-threatening symptoms, maybe fever and headaches and all those things. And week 2 will where our respiratory system will be attacked severely, and this is kind of pneumonia, but it's not bacterial pneumonia. It's a bit different pneumonia. That's why we don't have a cure. If it was a bacterial pneumonia, obviously then we would have been treated. And then if when it becomes worst, then it goes to the kidneys and the guts. Those are these the stages, or they work all together same time? From day one they start damaging kidney and the guts, lungs, and you also mentioned that brain and heart. So that's something new I have learned today. Brain and heart. Till now I was because the news we are reading, we only have able to understand that it is impacting on our lungs and kidneys. Even the guts, something is new. So how is possible that you did mention how it attacks to the blood by blood vessels and how to brain, but that was something completely new, that it can go so far.
Yes. So what happens that when you are getting infected by the virus load is not that much. There are certain number of viruses which are infecting your body. But once the virus, as Kamran said, that dodges your system and starts replicating, then it increases in the quantity. The number of viruses keeps on increasing, and therefore it goes to the lungs, and then it goes to heart and kidney and gut as well. Now, it all doesn't start together. It is a gradual process, and by the end of say 7 or 10 days, it is seen that it has already reached heart or kidney. So if you take that overall between 8 and 14 days, it starts affecting your kidney as well as heart or guts. But it all depends how severe is your case, how severe is your disease. It happens to certain population, certain section of population who has underlying health condition, but it is not necessary that it will affect everyone.
So there are some people who we've heard cases that they don't have underlying health conditions, but they have also contracted the COVID. So what could be the causes that those who are maybe healthy, young, we've heard young people have got it, some children have got it. So what could be the causes? Or
so it can affect anyone, irrespective of age or sex or gender, whatever you take. But the thing is that, for example, it can affect an infant, it can affect a 6 years old, it can affect 20 years old, it can affect 29 years old in all population segments. But the thing is that it is seen, stats so far has shown that it becomes very severe when the person is old aged or has underlying health issues or has, say, diabetes or heart conditions or kidney conditions. There it becomes very severe. And if there are certain patients who are very healthy and do not have any these kind of reported issues, but still get severe infection of COVID-19, then these things are very difficult to answer at this point of time, because knowledge is being developed why certain people who appear to be very healthy, do not have any issues, develop these kind of problem. But as far as I know, that pneumonia is one condition which is happening to quite a few people, and the immune response, there is one more thing, is the immune response. So the immune response varies from individual to individual. Now, if the immune response is adequate, the disease wouldn't go far. But if the immune response is weaker, then the disease might spread even in a person who appears to be healthy.
So it will attack everyone, but those who have immune system is stronger, they might not realize the symptoms and they will overcome. And those who have maybe a bit weaker immune system, they might realize the symptoms. Is that how? Yeah.
Yes. Largely, I would say. I mean, the symptoms might be milder or symptoms might be severe. For example, those who have a stronger immune system, immune response, they might have milder symptom. You know, the fever might last 2 or 3 days, or the cough wouldn't be that serious. Or the headache wouldn't be that serious. But if you have poor immune response, then these conditions would be very, very exaggerated.
So if someone sees in week 1 the minor symptoms, what approach they should have to protect themselves so that they don't enter in the second week, and if they enter in the second week, the damage is minimum.
Yes. So the thing is that when they realize that they have got this disease, if the symptoms appear and they are sure, the first thing is that they should self-isolate. That is compulsory, so that others do not get infected. And the thing is that they should desist from taking medicines which they see in media nowadays, which are coming up, like hydroxychloroquine or some remdesivir and all those medicines. It is better that at this point of time, I would suggest that they contact their GP and follow the advice of GP rather than taking any medication on their own.
Or in terms of non-medication, what approach do you have what kind of food or what kind of treatment they can do to themselves without using any medication? It means it could be fruits, it could be vegetables, it could be, I don't know, maybe hot water drinks, hot drinks, or what could be something which can make it minimum, reduce the damage.
Yes, I think that Rahman, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, actually, these are just being talked about, and case by case, maybe it has helped, but there is no fixed rule right now that a certain kind of diet will help you. So there is no scientific study to back this hypothesis that okay, vitamin C is helping, vitamin D is helping, and people start taking it. So no, it's not. It's case to case. It varies. The best thing to regarding precaution is like stay at home and hygiene and everything. Once virus is there, I mean, it's a very serious thing. So I would not suggest like any diet is there. I know the cases in my scientific community. My mutual friend in Spain, he was going like a gym, cycling, everything, and he was badly affected. So there is nothing like you can say that my immune system is good or others not. And if we notice that this virus is on the rounds, like it has affected every population, may it be Africa, Asia, Europe, US. So there is no barrier. Like virus is ultra smart; it's affecting everyone. So regarding diets, there are like people say that it can help and this can, but there is no scientific study, concrete scientific study that would say that okay, this diet will help and this will not. So really, if for precaution, we should follow the physical barrier against the virus. We should stay at home, hygiene, washing hands, covering nose, etc.
Kamran, we see in the news that it says it is affecting people, but those who have been affected or been notified positive from the population are the Asian community or African community. So how come this? We can see the figures is saying this community has been affected the most. So how come we are seeing these figures that these communities have been affected less, and these people have been affected more? Why is that?
Yeah, again, this study also needs to be complemented with their condition, like whether they are on the field, they are outside house. We say that okay, 35% Asian black minorities, but do we know like are they in the front line? Are they going for the job because they are forced to go for the job? So all these parameters once is taken together, then that study would make like a concrete conclusion. Right now, that's true. Like 35% to 33%, I don't remember exact number, is from the minorities, Black Asian minorities. So it's still like that is just a data and observation. So we cannot make any conclusion out of that right now.
Okay. And what did Dr. AbdulRahman? Do you like to add something on it?
Yeah, to start with, which already very well have been explained by the Kamran and Asfarul. So the first we have to understand one thing: the science doesn't work like we have some observation, we jump to conclusion. No. So what we do, we observe, we analyze the data without a bias, and that observation, that whatever we have done conclusion, it has to be validated by this several other independent groups, and it has to withstand the test of the time. The test of the time means everybody have to make sure that it is reproducible. If it's not reproducible, what we have concluded, because we have some observation, we do some clinical trials, we do some experiments in the laboratory, and it has to be exactly reproduced everywhere, every single. For example, we are in UK, the some group in France or India or in USA has to say that, okay, whatever they have done is, in fact, we can also do and perform and reach same conclusion. So this is how research works. So that's why it takes time. One thing. Second thing, which we have talked about, the people from ethnic minorities suffering. So far, what the observation is. So of course, what we do, we build a hypothesis, and then we several independent groups validate the hypothesis, and that reach a certain level of like the people start building the confidence on that, and then becomes reach a level where further it is being pursued. So if the foundation is shaky, nobody will take it forward. So far, what the observation people have made, because every day we are learning something new. So the observation which has been made, because the people from ethnic minorities, they have already some underlying health issues, or they live in conditions which may not be good for, they're not living the healthy lifestyle. So what happens when this happens? For example, just to bring, and there's recently the report, the scientists have reported that, which Asfarul has mentioned about the ACE2 receptor, ACE2 receptors. So viruses use these entry points to enter into the human body. So what happened? The people who have underlying health issues like diabetes, heart issues, or hypertension or something, they go on to have more of these receptors, these entry points. So for example, to just give an analogy, you have one entry into your house. So there's a less likely lots of people can enter. But that house or home has like 20 entry points, then you become more vulnerable. So those people have underlying health issues. They go on to have more of these entry points in the bodies. So that's why the people with underlying health issues go on to suffer more. So this is an observation. Nobody can say, because people are emerging. Every day the information, the science is emerging. We still, I would say, we just like on daily basis, we are learning something new. Some of the hypotheses which we are saying today may turn out to be absolutely not working or wrong. But so far it has been observed. The people who are contracting, so the thing is, some people go on to have COVID, severe symptoms. Some have mild and some have like remain asymptomatic. The asymptomatic individuals, it seems as if these people have less of, so far, which has nothing, they have less of these receptors within the nasal mucosal layer, like and so in the children, it has been seen that these children do not have well-developed ACE receptor down there into the lungs. So they have they have receptors in the nasal, the nose, and they went. But what happens? The virus is not able to infect in their lungs. So they show the symptoms, and it goes away. So in the some adults, the healthy individuals, maybe we are saying, which there's no definite like proof or so observation so far, maybe they have less of receptors, and those who are unhealthy individuals, they with the underlying health issues, they have more of ACE receptors, and that could be the reason why it's affecting some people severely and some people. But it's still, I would say, as Asfarul and Kamran have said, there's no definite way of saying or something. It is still evolving, emerging. We will know from 3-4 months from here, but in a short, we can say it has something got to do with the entry points, more severe symptoms, less entry point, less severe symptoms. Children who have less entry points in their in the lungs, so they show less symptoms. All the healthy individuals, and that's it.
So one question which came from the on private, they're asking that if you have contracted the virus once, what are the chances of getting it again?
This is a good question. Again, the thing is, because information is emerging, we are learning every day new. So to give me, I would just like to draw, and I think that Asfarul and Kamran will be better able to add on to this. But I'm just giving an analogy. For example, there's a polio virus. The polio virus has 3 strains, A, B, and C. So you must have heard in the Asian countries, especially, the people are given the oral vaccine, and it is repeated. So that is because you have to get the immunity against A strain, B, and C. The C is the last one, so you have to repeat it. So it is quite possible that these viruses, because viruses tendency to mutate, and so this have several strains. So you may get the immunity against strain A, but you may not get immunity against B. So I don't know. So far the information which is circulating around in scientific community, that is so far there's 8 strains are there. But how many of them are virulent means how many of them can infect, we don't know, or they can infect the same, or they share same. So if there are 8 different strains, so you need to get immunity against, or the body itself has like lower immunity. Also, when the virus infects or any pathogen infects, they're going to develop, the body itself develops some immunity. The line of adaptive immunity is called. So there's the body develops some memory against the infection. So sometimes if the body is not able to work in that direction and the proper memory is not there against the infection, then also the relapse may happen and person may get. So it's very complicated. The person health, the genetic makeup, the strains of the viruses, and the time. Maybe if the person is getting infection after a year or 2 years when the memory is like completely gone away, the person can get infected. But it's still we are learning every day. The information is emerging. And I would say, like, if Asfarul and Kamran would like to add, I would say that will be better.
The another question from a private chat is that so what are the obviously as not as scientific point of view, not as a scientific research, what are our traditional remedies which we can use to boost our immune system and to make us stronger if it comes to us? And there are the people who have one person text me saying that that the things have benefited his mom to overcome COVID-19. So amongst them is apple cider vinegar, salt water, and herbal teas, which have like a rosehip water, rosehip herb, and few more herbs he mentioned. Having them with hot water made the difference in their life. So, and even WHO has mentioned that in China and many other places, the traditional medicine has helped many people. Even though the science is not accepting this, but what is your take on it?
Me or Asfarul?
So the thing is that in this particular case, there are so many herbs provided to the person, but it could be a possibility that the person's immune system was smart enough to take care of this. It is not necessary that these medicines, these traditional medicines helped. And if at all these traditional medicines helped, I do not know to what an extent they helped, rather than the person's own immune system. So it's very difficult to answer that these traditional, unless and until there is a proof of it. So for example, if you give it the same thing to plenty other people and plenty other people from different ethnicity and different countries and all those things, and they start responding to it, then also I wouldn't say that these has helped unless and until there is a direct proof to it.
So is it okay to judge from what you've all said that having all these healthy diet and all that helps protect us against viruses or bacteria, disease in general, but not on a specific case of COVID-19?
See, diets often help, but the thing is that this is one particular condition where I wouldn't suggest to rely completely on diet. It is much better to follow the government's guidelines, and particularly if you have got infected, the best thing is to take a rest, take fluid as much as you can, and then and the self-isolation is of course there, and monitor your health. Monitor your health is taking temperature and noting it down, so that if the situation deteriorates and if you are going to hospital, you are in a much better situation to tell the health professionals that what happened during the course of time, so that they are in a position to take good decisions. But diet wise, I wouldn't say that yes, that only helped and not the immune system of the person. If others have anything to add to it, it would be much. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a very interesting thing to start with, because people start debating the diet or the food. So we have to understand one thing. What this Asfarul had just said, the science, so in the perspective, because there is some sort of at a lower level, there's some sort of a clash between the science and the traditional medicine. But what the science does, I've told you, the science first they observe, they plan experiments, they conclude, and they want independent group of people with no bias to reach the same. If they don't reach the same, we discard. If they reach the same, and it has to withstand the test of the. I'm sorry, I'm repeating the same thing. So there is a way, but the traditional does not mean backward or something useless. What the problem with is we have to channelize the information, and has to come on the horizon that everybody is able to understand. So maybe in future we can find the both, instead of crossing each other, they start to find and discover each other. Now coming back to the point, we have to understand what is more important. That people think that by, of course, the healthy food, I would say the balanced diet, which we say we should take the balanced diet. The balanced diet is the key to remain healthy. So any healthy individual with no underlying health issues, or even if the individual has underlying health issues and trying to avoid those conditions by exercising or by taking proper diet or whatever, can steer clearly or maneuver out of this trap of the COVID-19. So now the question is, even if a healthy individual end up getting COVID-19, so what sort of precautions? Of course, apart from isolation, should remain well hydrated. The most important thing is not to infect others, and that is one of the main reason why the concept of the personal protective equipments are there. For example, I am healthy and I end up catching COVID-19. So what should be? Even if I'm showing a mild symptoms, I should not react. The guidelines usually say that if you are facing problems, like for example, your fever is not going away, your cough is getting worse, and your breathing issues, so that you are really struggling to survive, you're really struggling, then you should call 111 and ask for them. If you are like facing no issues and over a week time or something, it will go away, you don't need to bother at all. But what is more important is to protect others who are vulnerable, because we don't know. Some people may have like underlying health issues, and they never know. The fault line only get exposed when they come in contact with this. And that's why we have to make sure that we have symptoms or we don't have symptoms, we don't unnecessarily venture out. So for example, I would like to bring a very important point. And that is, the people say, there's a debate going on, should we use masks or not? There's the debate going on. So the point is, if a healthy individual or so asymptomatic individual is using the mask, and those people who need it most, they're not able to get, then I would say no, leave it for them. But if you have your own homemade, or if you can use a scarf or something, can it be? So there are studies, but still the problem with the science is science. It has to be a sample size. It has to be across the geographical distribution, across the continent, across the independent groups. But some groups have shown that the use of masks during SARS outbreak in 2003 in Hong Kong and China, it brought down the infection rate by 70%. So there are evidences, because why? Because how the infection spreads, we have to understand. For example, I'm the healthy individual, I go out, some people are standing nearby. They will speak, they will exhale, means they will breathe out, they will laugh, or they will sneeze or cough. By any of these means, I can get the virus which is inside the air, which is aerosolized. The aerosol, it can enter my nose, I can take in. So there is a question, how much of viral load is required? How many exposures, how many times the exposure to require the person to get ill? This is again a very complicated thing. But we have to remember that the 6 feet or 2 meters difference, the distance which is being recommended, because so far it has been seen the person sneezes, if talks for long. For example, if you have to talk with somebody who has infection and you have a long conversation, then you have chances of during conversation, because person speaks at the moment we are speaking, I'm speaking, so I'm literally releasing these small droplets which are not visible to our eye, but they may have viruses which can become aerosolized and we can breathe in. So now the point is, mask help, yes, mask help, but if the mask at the cost of those who need it most, the patient, the frontline, the medical staff, or the patients or the people who have infection, better leave for them. If you have your own mask, there is, although a minority, the group which is saying the divided opinion, but is there absolutely no harm in using mask. The second thing which I would like to add, and I'm sorry it's got a bit lengthy, I've seen some people using the gloves. When they go outside their homes, they use gloves, and they keep touching things randomly, carelessly. So we have to remember, when we are wearing gloves, these viruses cannot enter through our hands. If you wear gloves, you move around, you use your key, because if you close the door, you use your car, you buy this stuff, you exchange currency, everything. Literally, you are picking and dropping viruses carelessly. It's better that you be careful. Use sanitizers when you're outside, which is more practical. Don't bring those gloves back to your home. And also, the last point is, if you're wearing a mask and it is not comfortable, if you are not able to handle it properly, it's not fitting properly, you will end up trying to fit it every couple of seconds. Literally, you will end up self-inoculating, because you will touching random things outside and you will self-inoculating. So you make sure that you don't touch your face mask often. Once you have you try to wash your hand or sanitize your hands.
So the main thing is that protecting ourselves and not spreading to others by implying these measures. And who are those people where we can say they are likely to get, because of as you say, the immune system is low. So the pregnant ladies, do they have a weak immune system as well? Someone put in the chat group in private to ask that the pregnant ladies do also have the weak immune system, and they are likely to get the positive if they don't put the protection measures. They don't take the protection measures seriously.
I think as a general guideline, everybody should take precaution. So there's no evidence so far that the mother end up transmitting the COVID to the fetus, the baby inside the womb. So what is important, because the physiology of a normal woman and pregnant woman is slightly different. But again, the point is, we are learning every day. So the better is prevention is better than cure. We shouldn't take any chance. The complications may set in, because as I say, the person may look normal, but the fault line get exposed only when you face the pressure, the challenges. So the best thing is, I would say the best advice is to take precautions, general precautions. We don't have to be paranoid. For example, if you are in a home, you don't have to go every 10 minutes and wash your hand. If your home is clean, nobody has symptoms, you wash your hands once you go to toilet, before you eat food, once you finish your food, wash you wear your shoes, the basic hygiene. But once you go outside and come inside, definitely you have to, once you're outside, you use a hand sanitizer because it's more practical. Once you come in, you make sure you wash your hands, and then you try to wash your face or whatever. So I think the basic hygiene, without getting too much apparent. But those pregnant women and all this, they need to take a bit of more precaution. They have to be careful and take the general social distancing and the basic hygiene concept into the consideration.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, the hygiene perspective was in our deen, our religion, alhamdulillah, has been so much that from day one, we normally do wudu 5 times a day, and we wash what do you call, so many parts, limbs of the body every day regularly, subhanallah. And these things were in place from before, and now alhamdulillah, people are realizing scientifically what benefits we have in washing regularly and all those things. But obviously we do have belief in our deen and faith, and we do know even when we do wudu, not only the physical dirt gets out, the spiritual dirt, the sins, they wipes out as well, subhanallah. So it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is cleansing us, not just not with the physical dirt, and also with the spiritual dirt. And and the du'as, all that Imam, one of the Imams, he mentioned dua. This is not the prophetic du'as, but he says make, because we need to make our health, our body is a we have a right. The body has a right over us, so we need to protect our body. That's the concept of Islam, and concept of the Deen. And same time, we need to use our body in such a way that we are not breaching the right of our body and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And having the thought of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and connecting ourselves with Allah is very important. So mashayikh, when they used to do wudu, their wudu was much different than our wudu. They used to take time without wasting water, without wasting the resources, and doing wudu when they were gargling and cleaning the nose. Allahumma arihni rahiyat al-jannah. So same time they are cleaning their physical body and cleaning their spiritual body and connecting themselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by cleaning their nose. Allahumma arihni rahiyat al-jannah. Oh Allah, grant me the fragrance of Jannah. When they are washing their face and they have the meditation in their mind, meditation, doing meditation, saying Allahumma bayyid wajhi yawma tabyaddu wujuh wa la tusawwid wajhi yawma taswaddu wujuh. Oh Allah, grant me the nur, the light on the day when the pious people will have been granted the light, and protect me from me becoming dark, and on the day when your sinful people will have the dark faces. And then when you are washing your right hand, Allahumma a'tini kitabi bi yamini. Oh Allah, grant me my book of deeds in my right hand. Wala tu'tini kitabi bi shimali aw min wara'i dhahri. When washing the left, Allah, don't give me my book in my left hand or behind the back. And when they are doing masah of head, Allahumma adillani tahta dhilla arshik yawma la dhilla illa dhilluk. Oh Allah, grant me your shade on the shade of your throne on the day of Qiyamah. So when washing the feet, Allahumma sabbit khadamayya ala sirat. Allah, protect me while crossing the bridge. So the hygiene perspective was so much in ourselves, to the extent the Prophet ﷺ said, once you do wudu and you look over the sky and you say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, the 8 doors of Jannah will open for you. You know how much encouragement to be hygiene. Yes, Maulana Hamza.
Yeah. May I add something to it, please?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the hygienicity has been emphasized quite seriously in our community. In this case, if you have an iota of suspicion that you might have touched, a place where so many people have touched. For example, if you have gone to grocery shopping and you have touched card, and when you come back and it is say namaz time, I would advise that use soap, wash your hands before going for wuzu. That is very crucial. So wuzu will certainly help you with the general hygienicity, but in this case, with this disease, it is crucial that you first, if there is a chance of viruses sitting on your hand, it is very crucial that you use soap in order to remove that virus before going for wuzu, because in wuzu you are taking water with your hands to your mouth as well as to your nose, and the chances, if you haven't washed your hands beforehand with soap, the chances of infection might increase. This is what my understanding is, and I'd request Arif as well as Kamran to add to this. If and correct me if I am wrong, please.
No, that's truly, yeah, that's correct. The point is, the moment we are out for shopping, grocery, or anything, and first of all, we should not go out just for shopping and then come back straight. The moment you come back, I would personally, what I follow, I'm not recommending anyone, but personally, I put all my clothes in the washing machine, straight away. Then I go for a bath, a proper shower, ghusl, and with extra soap. Also, the hair, we use shampoo, extra shampoo for hair because it causes fomite infection also. So the moment I come from shopping, I just go for proper thorough ghusl and wash all my clothes. This is what I follow.
What I would like to add on the top of both the Asfarul and Kamran had just shared is that I would, for practical reasons, I will always keep hand sanitizer with me because it's not possible to wash your hands outside. So what I'll suggest, but I've seen people because when they go outside, they touch their car, the keys, they exchange currencies, they take groceries. And so first we have to maintain the social distancing. I think everybody's clear with. But what is more important, because when we touch stuffs, we drop stuffs, we literally, we don't know, we are picking viruses and we're dropping viruses randomly, placing at each other, every place. So what we have to do, we just pick the stuffs, put in a bag. If we don't need to use that, just leave in a corner, and you can later on wipe. The first thing you have to do before you enter your home or after you have bought the groceries, wipe your hands. And you come back, wash your hands, because if there's a choice between washing your hand with the soap and warm water and with the sanitizer, I'll always go for soap and warm water. It's always better. The sanitizer, we have to understand, sanitizer is not going to work every time, because if your hands are too much soft, because in sanitizer, what's happening? You are using the alcohol base, which should have minimum of 60 to 65% alcohol inside. You're wiping it. The chemistry is similar to what I've explained for the soap. It's not exactly the same, but similar. It acts on the protein, and the soap was acting on lipids. So here it's getting, but we have to understand, when we rub, first we have to take a palmful, we have to rub properly, we have to literally rub a lot. The alcohol vaporizes. But unlike water, nothing's getting washed away. It's still there on your hands. So if it's like you have been doing since morning, you are outside, make sure you at least wash your hand once you reach, or once you have the access to washing your hands. So this is, we have to understand. So practical reason, we should use the sanitizer once we are outside. Once we reach inside with Kamran and as far as I just shared, you have to make sure first wash your hands with warm water and soap. And then later on, you can wash and properly for at least 20 seconds, rub properly, the same way you wash your greasy plates. And then, only then you can relax, and then you can think of other things. There was a question, I think it went off the screen.
I'll put up the question. So a user just asked this question that if we are working in customer service, and even if we wear gloves, is there any chance we can get infected by our clothing? And because we get the virus from infected people who sneeze, cough. So is there a chance of getting the virus? And also, how long does it stay alive in other objects?
So this is, again, Asfarul and Kamran may add on this. So what I would say, it's still the information we are learning every day. Some people have varied opinions. Some say, recently there was on medical masks, it has been seen to the virus remaining they're retaining this ability to infect until 3 or 4 days. Plastic 72 hours, but there's no a definite observation. But one thing is very sure, one thing we are clear, that in present circumstances where the high activity or communal area, where the people come and go, and the communal, lots of people come in the high activity zone, there are the probability that somebody asymptomatic individual or a person who has mild symptoms and they're out, they may drop the virus. We have to understand one thing: the viruses are not like something active organism outside the body. They cannot jump. They have to be carried by either air, which when we talk or we exhale, we breathe out, we cough, we sneeze, or we subconsciously, we touch something, for example, door handle for my bonds, door handle, car handles, exchange currencies, or even if you are at the counters, you talk, you give the groceries, you take the groceries. So these are the two ways only, either through the aerosolization, which is when you speak, you exhale, you cough, you sneeze, or the viruses are already there on the stuff you are taking there, and then you take your hands, either touch your eyes, your ears, or nose. So this is called self-inoculation. It may happen. But there's only two ways these viruses can come. They cannot fly, actively jump somewhere. So either through aerosolization from the air, when you talk, you speak, you cough, you sneeze, or through the self-inoculation, where you have touched these things like currency, door handles, bus handles, your public transport, wherever, and you end up self-inoculating. So now the point is, the person is at the counter, is interacting with the person on a daily basis. So what precautions one take? So we understand that if you are sitting on the counter and you are wearing gloves, but you are not protecting your nose, you're not protecting your mouth, you're not protecting your eyes, the wearing gloves is of no use. In fact, if you're not protecting these and you're wearing gloves, you may end up self-inoculating because you're carelessly interacting and picking up virus and dropping viruses. So what is more important, because the infection is entering through this mucosal layer of the eye, nose, or the mouth, you have to be very careful with these here. So you can wear, or I've seen a couple of places that they put the screen in front of, you exchange with your hand. Remember, as long as your viruses are there on your hand and you're not touching your eyes, your face, and nose, you're not self-inoculating, you can still get rid of virus. Virus won't enter through your hands. This is very important to understand. So we have to cover our face from where the viruses enter. They're not going to enter from your hands. So as long as restricted to hands, it's far much better advises that you wear a face mask, goggles, and the mask, or or some shield sort of, or have a screen in front of you. After every transaction or whatever, you wipe your hand. Washing often with soap water may not be like advisable, because end up damaging the skin.
So those people who are working on the daily basis, especially on the shops, news agents, corner shops, maybe for those, because many of our brothers and sisters work, for them it's good to have the glass sheet over.
I would strongly advise to have a screen in front of them. So what we just discussed, because the two mechanisms, the two ways, either through air when the person speaks, sneeze, cough, or something, or they touch something because they already had virus, their hands are dirty, and they end up picking something, and the viruses are there, and they're popping on, then you're self-inoculating. So if you have a screen in front of, at least you can minimize that. And you can also, you can wear a self-made mask, something which you are not touching often. Make sure if you are wearing mask, don't touch before sanitizing, you're washing your hands. If you're touching it often without washing or sanitizing your hand, you're better not to wear, because you will end up self-inoculating. Wear something on protective on your face, or put a screen, and on the top of, you can also wear a face protective gears or something.
So, Dr. if you can explain the steps: stage 1, stage 2, step 1, step 2. Put in the mask, and then wear the gloves, or
first you have to sanitize your hands first, or wash your hands with soap, warm water soap if you have access. If you don't have access, sanitize your hand. Take a palm full, keep rubbing until all the sanitizer is gone. Like, means completely dry your hand by rubbing. You don't leave in between. You have to keep rubbing every single corner, and you don't, because people take a little bit. You have to take a palm full off. It's enough, I would say, to give a teaspoon or more than teaspoon, and keep rubbing every corner. If you're not satisfied that you haven't reached, take it again, properly rub. Keep your nails short, clean, and then you wear your mask properly and wear your goggles, and then you start your transactions. Once you are done with the transaction, and now you have a screen. The person comes in, you give the groceries, you give the stuff. Try to get for the contactless, like payment by card or something. If it's not happening, if you have to exchange cash, give them cash. You don't have to wear gloves. You can give the cash by your hand. Once that transaction is done, do not forget to wipe your hands with sanitizer. The problem is, if you are in a shop and you have to wash your hands every minute, with the soap and water. What happened? Because as we, if you can recall, we have to, our body also, they are the oil glands. They are the glands on our skin which keep releasing oil. Because if we keep washing our hands for long, because as the Kamran and Asfarul has already shared, that our body is made of the same component the viruses are. So we start showing the symptoms. We hand turns dry, and we may end up damaging the skin. So it's better and practical more to use the sanitizer rather than soap in the shops. But we have to, after every transaction, don't forget to sanitize your hand and don't touch your face mask and goggles often without sanitizer.
There's a question for by Kamran. They're asking if you can advise on how long the virus can stay on different surfaces.
Yeah. The surfaces, if we analyze, these are different materials. So there is a long range. I will just email in detail, but 3 to 17 days, 3 to 14 days, the virus is active. We don't say alive, it's active. So it's on the surface, but when it somehow come to our nostril, it can infect. But there are studies 3 days to 14 to 17 days. Because we have polymers, we have different kind of surfaces. So there is scientific list. I will just send you a detail to the person here. Exactly, but 3 days to 17 days for sure.
And the transfer of the virus, so at the moment now what's happening is, because there are so many Muslims who are passing away, so now there are some who are thinking that we cannot do ghusl, we cannot fulfill the last rites of the deceased because we are going to contract, we can catch the virus through when doing ghusl and things like that. So the question is that, can we get the virus during ghusl, or what are the chances?
Yeah, chances are high, very high.
For in a dead.
Yeah.
So
what are the measures we can use to provide the ghusl to our loved ones? And because the ghusl is one of the very important acts, is a wajib, and we should try, because alhamdulillah we are living in such part of the world where we can use the measures where we can fulfill the right of the deceased, and same time we can protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
With full protection. Yeah.
Sorry, Kamran, you go ahead, please.
Done. Yeah.
So those people who are performing the rituals, they should have their PPE over them, and after that, the place has to be sanitized. And it is advisable that the rituals are not performed by older people to minimize the chances of infection.
Okay.
So what's the difference between chance of infection between someone who is alive and someone who is dead? Are the chances same, or is it more or less? So should we, basically what I'm trying to get to is, there are some who are calling for total abandonment of ghusl because of the chances of being infected. But then at the same time, we have to balance with what the Sharia wants and what the people want in terms of their beloved, to fulfill their last rites. So, like a middle ground where we can still protect ourselves from the virus, but at the same time also fulfill the rights of the mayyit.
And is it right to say that the risk we have to get infected by the living people is the same to get infected by the dead person?
Can I?
Yeah.
Is it right? Is it right to say that if the risk we have to be infected by COVID-19 living person, compared to the dead person, so the both of them have, the living person and the dead person, both of them have COVID-19 positive. Is it the risk the same, or with the dead people is higher?
Can I?
No, it should be the same, not higher, or it should be slightly less. Yeah.
So it can be treated same. The way we treat the COVID-19 living person, how much protection PPE we implement ourselves to be protected by the living person. So we should have the same, and that's how. That means that we should not be selling the idea of not giving ghusl, because as we provide the necessaries to the living person and protect him and give him the steam bath and ghusl and whatever he's required during his COVID-19 situation. So what harm there is? There's no harm then to doing that. If we have all protective measures in place, we can do the ghusl to the dead person as well.
Yeah, what happens physiologically, virus keep budding out of the cell. After the infection is done, cells are dead. Cells, one cell, single cell, one unit. So the virus keeps on budding from that. They keep on, the process is still ongoing for the virus. It enters, it replicates, and then it buds out. So even if the person is dead, most of our cells are fresh and body is fresh. So the virus will continue to bud out. So it should be considered same, like the infection, the chances of infection from the live and dead bodies are almost equal. Yeah. And of course, if there is a provision for ghusl and washing, so there is extra as much as like we do in the hospital. The same standard of PP is required for handling that.
Yes.
So now, okay, there is one question we'll take from the public, and after that, I would like to request the panelists to tell us if there's any good news about vaccine, or is it ready, or what's happening.
The
question is, how effective is the non-alcoholic hand sanitizer than the alcoholic one?
So I would suggest so far, because we know the chemistry behind the alcoholic sanitizers and the soap water. We don't know the chemistry behind the non-alcoholic sanitizer, and I would strongly recommend not to use them until it's not proven. So the people tend to use something like, there are lots of which may act against bacteria and fungus, but may not be effective because of the chemistry involved with the viruses. So we have to be careful and not to go after something around which the science is not very clear. So my recommendation is strongly, I would say what I would prefer is alcoholic sanitizer, minimum of 60-65%, and the best is soap.
And if you have some tips on making it at home ourselves, then maybe we can put it on the chat later, and people can, if they want to.
So there are two formulations by the WHO. The problem is actually accessing the ingredients. This is the ingredients of the hand sanitizer. If you get them, you can make them. So because WHO has already released them as formulations of hand rub. The one thing I would just like to add, I'm sorry, it's a bit off topic, but I would like to add on the concept of how much it is the chances of person contracting the coronavirus from a dead person, COVID-19 infection. So the only thing which is missing in the dead person, with the Kamran and Asfarul has rightly added that the chances are very high, and person has to have proper PPE like hazmat suit or something to cover. You have to realize one thing which is missing in the dead person cannot sneeze, cannot exhale, cannot cough. So that part is gone. So whatever you are going to pick up is like passive, like it won't be active. There's no aerosolization is there. So you will touch and you will self-inoculate, or you are washing the body, which Kamran was saying. If you're not having a protective and you are washing and the water spills and keep going into your nostrils, your face, your hand, then you may end up taking the virus as well. So there is one difference, that there is no active aerosolization in the dead person.
So now can we move towards the end maybe, and ask is there a vaccine or anything good news, or what's happening about a vaccine, and how long will the measures? The government obviously has said it's going to be another 3 weeks of lockdown. So
yes, so the only way out of this situation, as we know, COVID is very serious, and there were many questions that you asked regarding diet and everything. So that could have helped in case of many other mild disease. But COVID is very serious. If we realize half of the world population or more are hiding, and it's very infectious. The only way out is, and there are reports of reinfection in different countries. So the vaccine is the sure shot way out to come out of this lockdown and this pandemic. So there are, from day one, scientists are working hard globally, and there are several collaborative projects. Internationally, scientists are collaborating. So according to the recent report in Lee et al., there are 16 candidates, the vaccine candidates, and it takes a long process to get to that stage that now your vaccine is ready and you are going to test in human. So all these, there were many in the beginning, but finally 16 strong candidates are being tested in human trials, and that's a very good news. And again from UK, the professor of Oxford University, and she said, Professor Sarah Gilbert, she has already started testing in human, and according to her, she said that by mid-August, the patient trial will be done, the result will be out. So we hope that it's a good result, and she has given a statement that she is 80% confident that it will be a success. So this is one report, but there are many in the US, in Europe, and different labs are working. So there are 16 strong candidates in the race. So we are really hopeful, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that these vaccines work. And then that there are vaccines. Earlier we know that for polio we have a very successful vaccine. So vaccines against virus does very good rather than these pharmacological compounds, because this is to deal with the instant killing, and it's the immune system, the complex system. So we are hopeful. Yeah, that's a very good news.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So, mashallah, we had a very good session. Anyone wants to have concluding remarks before we sign off?
Stay at home and save lives.
Yes, it's very crucial to keep hygiene, maintain your hygiene, and if you have symptoms, self-isolate, take care of elders, and stay home as much as you can. The government is saying to flatten the curve, which is very rightly they have said that they want the NHS to be in a position to treat everyone. They do not want the NHS to be overwhelmed with patients. So it's very imperative that we maintain hygiene, stay home, and I think and wait for the things to improve.
And
take virus seriously.
Yes.
In regards to Ramadan and fasting, and how the COVID-19 will have impact on the people who are fasting, we will come back with this session maybe in the first week of Ramadan, when everyone is fasting and they are experiencing the issues, and in that sense we will have more questions, and we can explore more on that topic, that those who have minor symptoms, what should they do? They should continue their fast, or it's better not to keep it. So we are at the early stage in that sense. So inshallah, first week of Ramadan we'll come with you guys again and talk about the Ramadan and COVID-19, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Jazakumullah to everyone, Dr. AbdulRahman, Dr. Kamran, Dr. Asfarul, and Mona Hamza, and for broadcasting this event. It's very important event, inshallah. It might benefit many people, and this is the whole and sole reason, out of sincerity, that we want to protect each other, and that is the believer's sign, the sign of the believer, that whatever the Prophet ﷺ said, "La tabsut yadaka illa bi khair." Don't spread your hands except for goodness. So whenever we do any act of goodness, that is the moment we are making our akhirah, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And وَلَا تَقُلْ بِلِسَانِكَ إِلَّا مَعْرُوفًا. Don't utter anything from your tongue except what is good. So these are the words which can help many lives, to Muslims, non-Muslims, and the main thing is that we have to protect our health, our lives, and especially focus on our elders who have weak immune system, or those who have underlying health issues, because doing the khidmah, serving the parents, serving the elders, is the key or means to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get the Jannah. And in the hadith of Ramadan, where Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the very popular hadith, which we normally mention and hear a lot in the month of Ramadan, where Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was stepping up, climbing the mimbar, and he said, "Ameen, Ameen, Ameen" thrice. So later on, the Sahaba Ikram inquired from him, "O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have seen something different, which we normally not used to see, that you were saying Ameen while climbing the steps of the mimbar." I said that Jibreel was here, and he was making a dua or a curse on some people, and I was adding up that curse with Amin. So it is deadly, deadly curse. And one of them, the first one was that those who have managed to enter in the month of Ramadan, where Allah's mercy is descending immensely, and you don't get yourself forgiven by Allah, then this person is like unfortunate person. The second person was then the one who hear the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and don't send the durood on Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so he might for him. And the third one was that those who have parents around them, and they are the mean for them to enter in Jannah, and they lose that opportunity. So parents and elders of the uncle, aunties, dada, daddies, whoever the elders around us, we have an opportunity to serve them, protect them. And I see many youngsters, they go outside, they work, they come back home, and they are very they're not very protective. You might be harming your parents by your without conscious. This is very extremely dangerous. So anyone who goes outside for work, whatever reasons, when they come back home, they should abide and practice this, take these measures seriously. To put your shoes somewhere where there is no access to the people. Take the clothes, garments, change them in some room where there is no access to the family, and leave those clothes and shoes which you normally use for outside. Keep them separate so that there is a less chance. So because many of our elders not leaving house. That's true. Many of our elders are not leaving house, but the young ones, those who are leaving house, they are bringing inside. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us an understanding. Sheikh Hamza, anything you want to add?
Yeah, just to do with the masjid, obviously the month of Ramadan and the masjids play a very central role in Ramadan. And unfortunately, we are still, we haven't been given the green light to open our masajid again. So our Ramadan is not going to be a communal Ramadan, but rather it's going to be more intimate in our homes with our families. So the masjid is also following the guidelines set out by the government as well. So please keep safe. Don't have your normal iftar gatherings, dawat that we do all the time. So please, maintain whatever guidelines we have. And also regarding Taraweeh as well, it's an opportunity where families before, some probably never seen their parents praying salah in the homes, but now alhamdulillah, in one way we are all praying together with Jamaat. Our children are learning how to do adhan, so they are doing the adhan, and then they're doing iqamat, and then they are leading salah. And even in Ramadan, Taraweeh is coming, so there are people, alhamdulillah, their whole lives they've always gone to the masjid, and they've always prayed all 20 rakat, full Quran behind the Imam. So this is something unprecedented. We have never come across this before, like, being in our homes and we can't even go out and do Taraweeh. So people are asking, can we, follow the Taraweeh from the masjid or virtual Taraweeh, which there are many discussions going on, but the flat answer is that no, we all have to do our own Jamaat in our own homes. But whatever surahs you've learned, whatever Quran and alhamdulillah, there are many who know quite a bit of Quran. So use that during Taraweeh, during the day, revise it, and then in the evening you can lead whoever knows the most Quran, and whatever they know, they can lead their families in Taraweeh. So inshallah, look after yourselves and make dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us all back to normal so that we can enjoy Ramadan. If not Ramadan, then at least Eid together with everyone. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam to Allah wa barakatuh.
Islam.